And that's my cue. The lady is singing and I am stopping my screen share. Let me spotlight myself and Tim. Where'd you go, Tim? There you are. Add spotlight. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Joel. This is the weekly briefing. This is that moment each week when Tim and I get together with you to share the latest, what we're seeing in the industry, talking about trends, need to know, urgent items and things like that for owners of creative studios and production companies. Tim, welcome. Happy Thursday to you.
Happy Thursday to you. It's I can't believe it's Thursday already. You gotta be honest with you. I traveled on Tuesday, and when you skip a day of the week, it just messes up everything.
No doubt. Well, I'm excited to get into this topic because it's actually dovetailing off of what we talked about last week, right? Where we were talking about talent and producers. But can you give everyone here the super quick recap of last week?
Well, it feels like for the last couple of weeks, we've been identifying certain things. A few weeks ago, we talked about really how the production resource has completely changed over the last few months. Honestly, it's been harder to find producers. The rates have changed. Availability, talent level of producers is out there. So we've heard a lot of business owners talking about trying to bring producers on and working through that process. And then there's what we've recognized also is that we're walking into a season that's going to be very busy. It feels like the fall season is returning, like a normal fall season. And a lot of clients are getting calls now and ramping things up. So what we're recognizing is there's a lot of work to be done and the usual resources are not there in the same way.
Which led us to ask the question, okay, what can people here be thinking about or doing to get out ahead of that situation, right? Like our favorite saying is the best way to deal with the future is to create it. So there's this thought called, if we're going to be really busy, maybe it's time to evaluate how we've been doing things. And one of the questions we had was, are people doing their production meetings right? Maybe they're going about solving some of these problems in a way that could be better. I'm not going to say wrong, but maybe could be better. Is that the big idea here?
Yeah. To me, it's often, especially when you're a smaller entity, we solve the problem who, not how, and it's very smart. It's nice to grab a resource that has experience. You bring that person in; they have influence over your team. It reduces some stress for you because you don't have to train them or have that kind of oversight because you're brought the right person in with the right experience to do it. But when that shifts and the who's not available, do we really understand what it takes to get it done to begin with? Do we understand the procedures of getting the production meeting or production process finished, regardless of who's doing it? So this might be one of those moments where we have to step up and ask those questions of like, how should we do this, regardless of who's doing it? Especially as a business owner, you have this ability and need to synchronize many parts of your company together. So today we're talking about the production meeting, but the thought of like the production meeting synchronizes certain pieces together. And if you're doing it right, it should create some efficiency in other areas. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to share my screen because I've got a couple bullet points that will hopefully trigger you, and I can draw out of you some of these thoughts. So let me share my screen. Here's the question we're asking. Oh wait, I'm going to reveal all three at once. So sorry, there's not a gradual reveal here. So Tim, this question here of, is your production under stress? And here are some signs, some common signs that people might not think, oh, that there's really a problem. This is just how it is. This is normal, or this is the problem, right, that we have to solve. One thing that we hear a lot is, oh, we just need more producers. We need more project managers, right? That's part of your who, not how conundrum is if you find yourself saying we just need more producers, why would that be perhaps a symptom of a deeper problem?
Well, often when you're saying we need more producers, you're saying something like, I have a problem with scale. So, hey, I usually have 1 or 2 projects per producer. I have 2 more projects. I need another producer. When there are systems and routines you can put in place. I've worked at places where producers handled 5 to 8 projects each, I've heard of some places where they handle 15 projects each. So you can imagine there are systems in place that production team could handle a larger volume of work. It's just what's required from them, and when it's required from them makes a difference. And that scalability has a lot to do with timing, requests, and understanding what you're trying to get out of them.
So this next one, constant chatter, this is that mode that I think so many creative studios live in, where it's just normal. That of course, every day there's this constant back and forth, producers talking to artists, talking to owners, needing approvals. Hey, can you look at this? And it's like, you're just kind of always on. Now, again, I would say that sounds kind of normal. That just sounds like, when I ran my business, right? That's just what it means to be in business, right? Why would constant chatter not be perhaps an ideal thing to put up with?
Yeah, it's funny because it's the world we live in is the communication age, but I often hear that people say they have a communication problem. So we know the answer is not technology or the age that we live in. There must be something about our behavior. When you have a culture that allows for constant chatter, what you really are introducing is constant disruption. And the production process is very analog. It is very analog, and it should be very analog. So this ability to have chatter all the time really is asking for constant updates of something that doesn't need to be updated. It's really A, B, C, D, E. We know what's coming next. Why are we chatting about it again? Why are we introducing things? The other behavior part of constant chatter is it's often the loudest person, the biggest storm, or the most critical issue is what's heard. So you're really creating a culture of the sky is falling. And because when someone yells the sky is falling, you're always in this mode of triage and trying to fix and fix and fix. And I think that we entrepreneurs get addicted to that a little bit because we feel like the hero. This is the moment we stand up. They've been waiting for me. They're calling me to the thing. So we kind of like it, but what it's really doing is it's just destroying everything. Where that you can systematically get through many of the issues you're talking about. And if you put the right conversation at the right time on the right platform, you'll actually get results. It's a big reason why I hate Slack. I just can't understand at all why in the world I need to read everybody's everything all the time. It's not necessarily working me through the situation I'm up against in this moment.
Well, I'm thinking of a few owners right now that I wish I could call them out by name, because a few of them are here right now, but I won't. I'll be nice. But that they have this incredible ability to come in and rescue the situation, right? Like, oh, my EP can't decide, or my creative director, is off track, and this, that, and the other. And there's this, like you said, this feedback loop of like, it feels really good when I, as the owner, come in and save the day and figure it out. And it's amazing. And everyone's like, oh my God, we're so glad you're here. You fixed it. But that feedback loop is perhaps an addiction that can be cured. But let's get on to this third one. Under stress, we call this financial hindsight, right? So instead of insight, hindsight. I'll say this, that how many owners and producer teams finish a project and there's this moment where we're like, how did we do? Right? And it's this rear view mirror saying, well, we kind of did okay. We went a little bit over budget. Oh, it was kind of a disaster. And then the thought is, okay, well, how can we just do better next time? That's very normal. Why would that be a sign that your production is under stress?
Yeah, or causing stress. Well, all of you know us now and know this story well, but RevThink was started because someone asked me the question, where did my money go? And I couldn't, to be honest with them, I didn't know either. So I started the idea of Rev thinking through the process of where the money, why don't we know where it is? Shouldn't it be where we thought it was going to end up? And couldn't I really, in a way, produce the financial process? But this thought of like only looking backwards at your finances, collecting the data after the fact, thinking that the production process is really like CSI, like we're just going to do an investigative forensic process and then decide, learn from our mistakes in a way, decide what happened after the fact, doesn't necessarily guarantee success. And it also creates this ability to not know what decisions to make and when. If I can look forward through the process. Instead of looking backwards, look forward, I can actually pre-decide things and therefore avoid multiple conversations. And most important, and I mean this is a major issue everywhere, but especially in production, avoid opinions over knowledge. With finances, there are very clear analytical ideas of how to get somewhere. A bunch of opinions doesn't necessarily add to that pile. So you can really think through and see the results when you're looking at paperwork, finances, and calendar. And those are the kind of the things we want to look at. So financials are those two things come together. What the costs are, how long we have somebody, or how long it's going to take, being able to look at that project and see if we're hitting the target we expected.
Wow. All right. By the way, if my connection is choppy, apologies, as I'm out here in the wilds of Nebraska. Lydia, let me know if
if you want to go off camera, Joel, that might be helpful.
Okay, cool. I'll try that.
Yeah.
All right. So
let's
turn the corner here. And by the way, if someone if you have a comment or you have a question about what we're going, we're just going to kind of rip through this because we're going to get it done in 30 minutes. But feel free to drop some comments and we'll get to them. So Tim, if we turn the corner and we start talking about this idea of the proactive production meeting, let's walk through this. There's this idea of seeing beyond the obstacles. What does that mean? Because I think you just hinted about this like proactivity thing. What does that look like?
Yeah, first of all, I'm with you. Like a half hour is not really enough time to talk through all this stuff. I've actually been thinking about like maybe doing a producer boot camp and allowing you to send your producers or come yourself or whatever and really talk through what these items are, because there are very simple things and easy practices you can put in place to make that that future a reality for you. And the stressful time that we're in, to have anybody that would kind of help you sort this out, I'm sure would be helpful. Along the way, the first one I said, this one, you said see beyond obstacles, Joe, because you like to correct when I have these funny sayings. But so I like to see through the obstacle. What I really mean is that I recognize the obstacle is there. You're right, it is going beyond it. But I actually kind of want this idea that there's superpower, that I want to know, like, what is this thing in front of me and how do I get past it, or how I get through this obstacle? The production meeting is a great place to do that. A proactive production meeting is really ideas always looking forward. And these obstacles that we're up against are often very easy to recognize. I don't have the resources I thought I had to get the job done, or I need resources to get the job done. I need to discuss things with the client so that they're in check and their expectations are managed. And I need to talk to my creative team to make sure that they're hitting their target, their expectations are managed, and they have the resources they need to get the project done. So those are the obstacles, and we can easily define them in very easy buckets. Well, now I can sit in a production meeting with a simple agenda saying, hey, let's actually solve these problems. And I want to say, put my entrepreneurial hat on. So you probably heard me say this before. This is the producers meeting. They're the ones really asking you for help in this moment. Don't hijack it. Don't just go off, but put your entrepreneurial hat on. Needs plus resources equals solution. And this might be a chance to change direction, see beyond those obstacles, and actually still accomplish the goal. So that navigation is what you're asking for in this production meeting, and you want people to know how to navigate through it. You're there to help them.
So let's ask this question, because I'm realizing there may be I should have set this up before we got into these 3 points. Tim, when you describe this production meeting, are we talking about like, what's the routine? Is this a daily meeting? Is everybody there from the entire company? Like, what's it look like, and when does it happen?
Yeah, I mean, you actually just said 3 meetings, Joel. So you can have a company-wide meeting, really great. Do that on Monday morning, keep it short, have bagels, cheer. Don't ask everyone's opinion about everything. You don't need everyone to talk about everything all the time. Just celebrate the moments, have those company meetings. Awesome. You should have daily meetings with you about your projects. And I do mean daily, not hourly or minute by minute. This is that constant chatter issue. We should have a meeting in the morning to discuss, what does this project need to achieve today? How do we understand it? It just should be quick and easy, realign the issues, understand what the client's needs are for this 24 hours and get that done. The one we're talking about here, this proactive production meeting, is actually a weekly meeting. It's when you're take one more step up from Google Earth and you're looking at the whole picture. You can see longer term issues this way and solve them in the longer term so that the short-term issues don't happen. So we want to be able to see bigger picture ideas and have conversations through all the projects. So this is when we're looking at all the projects. From your roll-up is a great place to use as an agenda, but talk through all the projects and understand how all these pieces come together. And then you as a business owner, a creative, an EP, producer, whatever it is, you can see and listen to the other producers. But like listen to the producers and recognize when you take a resource off the table, you're limiting that other team's resource to get something done. And you want to be able to work together as a full team, getting all the projects in and out. So this is a little bit of just hearing and working together through the big picture items instead of those micro-focused day-by-day issues that you have on projects.
Yeah, so I heard like the company meeting is a cultural meeting. The daily is a job, it's a project meeting. And then the weekly production meeting is that step back and Google Earth, see all the jobs at once.
That's right. Yep.
All right, so number 2, align and decide. What's that about?
Yeah, I was hinting at that a little bit. Then there is when I have all my projects together in a report that's easy to understand, then you can kind of see all the available resources, money, time, people, and you can work those puzzle pieces together. And what you want to do is be able to solve those issues for the next 5 to 7 days, right? So we don't have to talk about it again tomorrow and realign these issues. So it's not like a resource meeting. We're talking about, hey, here's what we're delivering this week, what's happening next week, what issues this client is bringing up that we didn't anticipate, how we're going to deal with those issues. And we're going to be able to work through that together as a team and listen to each other. One producer or another team, a creative, might have a solution to a project that they're currently not working on. This is a chance for them to step forward and say, hey, I believe I know how to do that. Again, let's say opinion aside, we're looking for facts and knowledge, but how do we actually get through some of these issues? So that's what I'm looking for in this meeting. I want to hear some of those big picture items. Here's what we go through project by project, right? How is this project doing creatively? Does a client appreciate where it's going? Do we internally appreciate where it's going? How is this project doing financially? Like, are we hitting our targets? Do we know that we're hitting the money? And how are we doing on the project with relationship to the client? When we said yes to this, we looked at those 3 R's: relationship, reward, and resume or real. And we said, hey, this has that ability to do this for our company. Are we still aligned? Is this project helping us accomplish that? What do we need to do to hit that target? So to be able to know and process this together, everyone has that same structure of those 3 issues. We can hear and understand and help people get through each of those projects. It also gives the producer a chance to realign with the owner and with the creatives on a global picture, to maybe remove some chatter throughout the day and even allow them to take on a few more projects, because you're proactive, you're making those decisions longer term, and you're just acting them out in an analog way. So I can follow those steps very easily and get them done.
So here's one nuance people might be asking. In this meeting, we've got owners, we've got producers. Is it all the creatives, or is it just the leads?
Yeah, that would be a cultural issue, but I definitely would keep the meeting to a very constructive group of people. So it's not like an invite only situation where nobody, you have to be part of an exclusive group to get in the room. What we want is the decision makers in the room to hear each other. So you might have a level of creative that just would not necessarily fit in that room because they're more execution based. So, or personality wise, they want clarity of what to execute, but they don't want to be in the situation where we're processing a whole bunch of dreams and ideas. Some people, that doesn't help them to talk through all the obstacles. They just want to know the answers so they get the job done. And this is one of those moments where you have to talk through many things before we find that answer. So you're going to have to decide that for yourself. But I recommend all your producers so that they have visibility, definitely the business owner, and then your creative team, high-end creative directors, that kind of work. But the other creatives, you're going to have to decide. If you want your head of CG, your top editor, those folks, you're going to have to decide if that's best for you or not.
Yeah, and maybe we should encourage people also that are maybe thinking, God, this meeting sounds kind of like a monster, that the reality is if you just focus on those 3 C's you mentioned of client, creative, cash, it's almost like red light, green light, yellow light. You just go through the jobs. You spend a minute, right, or 2, and it's on an exception basis. So if it's green light, just keep going, keep going, keep going. Whoops, let's stop on the red light. Let's align, let's decide, and we move forward.
I'm so glad you said that, because it's so true. If it doesn't have an issue, we don't just talk about it because we're filling time. We actually try to get through it. The clients have been running this for years. We're really do these meetings in 20 minutes, half hour. It can be, you can go through them because we're kind of just retuning the big picture items that are out of tune. But if they're in tune, we know the daily meetings working and the production team's working on it and the clients are in good shape, then we don't have to make up issues just because we have the floor.
So number 3 here, we talk about allocate resources in context. I like this one because I'm thinking if I do a meeting about a project on a daily basis, I'm only making decisions about that project and the resources within it, but I've got 10 other projects going and tons of other resources that are not on that job. So is this the moment when there's that negotiation between the different teams?
Yeah, I should say, if you have a large resource pool, you might need to have a separate resource meeting. And in that meeting, you're really talking about who's available, any new people you want to bring on, and you're going to be looking at a calendar, a long-term calendar. The resource meeting you have, by the way, if you're very proactive, you might be meeting people and looking at reels and discussing folks that you don't currently need, but you're even making check marks of, in the future, when I need this person, I know they're available, instead of waiting till the last moment and trying to fill in a gap that you could have anticipated ahead of time. So if you have a separate resource meeting, then you definitely don't bring that meeting into this room. If you don't have a separate resource meeting, and this is the chance to get together, so you're a smaller company, you don't have a large resource pool, then it should be pretty easily aligned where you're discussing how to allocate your projects into possibly teams or leadership pools. So you can say, oh, this is Dave's meeting, this is Michelle's, or this is Dave's project, this is Michelle's project, this is Lori's project. And then what we mean by that is Lori's taking her 3D team to do this, and this is the editorial project Dave and the assistant editor are doing, or so on that way. And you can really kind of align what your overall clumps of resources and how they're going to work through it. If you have to deal with a large freelancer pool, again, I would keep that out of this meeting unless it came to major trends. So we at RevThink, we see major trends and we pull them to the front and say, hey, we're seeing this. You inside your company might see the same thing. Hey, it seems like there aren't any assistant editors around anymore, and then you can talk through what that means and are other people seeing it, and then talk about some long-term strategy that way. The other resource we're dealing with here is the financial resource. Do we understand where the money is going, and having a sense of which projects are on track and off track to see if you should realign maybe people based on their day rates or availability to clean up some of those resources. If you're looking far enough ahead and you're using something like the roll-up where you're anticipating costs, then you can see it far enough ahead of like how we can move the right people into the right projects to give the client what they paid for. So there's a nice realigning that can happen with financials as well.
So I'm by the way, I'm seeing some nice comments. I especially love Eric's here. He says, hell, I'd pay some producers from a few agency clients of ours to a boot camp. I'm like, yeah, I don't think agency producers actually do what they claim they do, but well, that's another topic for another day.
Eric, let's figure that out, man. I think you've found a gold mine. I love that idea.
Yeah. So how about this, Tim? I'm wondering if you and I could maybe take a stab at what's sort of the before and after, right? When you get out of this who and into more of a how approach, right? There's a method to production. It's not just, oh, go find a really smart producer, she'll figure it out. What becomes possible, or what's the transformation that we've seen businesses go through as they put these things into place?
Sure. I mean, number one, what we want to do is just think through as much as possible, how do we not reinvent the wheel every time, right? So we're trying to look for efficiencies in certain areas. That's in your budgeting and bidding process, very easy. That's in how regular you do certain routines, like a resource meeting, a calendar meeting or scheduled meeting. So you're thinking of it as a group together. You know, I'll say to have 4 people in the room together for 1 hour is 4 hours of productivity. That if we don't have that meeting, then you'll probably spend 8 or 12 hours in that week shuffling resources around and making things happen differently. So that some of that just working together to determine, hey, could we solve bigger problems in a more efficient way, resources and so on. The other thing we want to do is make as easy as communication as possible. Like if there are roadmaps that we have available, like we've done these projects before, let's just do it the way we always do it. And make sure that we're making promises to our clients that match that. So we call that a method. If you have a method of producing, you tell that client, it's actually your differentiator. You tell your client the way we do it is, and then you explain your method so that clients' expectations are met upfront. They understand what they're going to go through. Your calendar looks like that. Your budget looks like that. The rates on your budget look that way. And then you're walking through just executing that promise step by step by step. When there's something off course, if it's minor, just deal with it. If there's something major, you bring it together to the team, talk about it, work through it, keep it going. You're always looking for success. Win, win, win is what we're looking for internally, with the client, and then with your company. Like you want to make sure that your investments are playing out for you.
I'm going to share one. Well, I guess this is a couple stories that are synthesized, so I'll keep the names out in order to protect the innocent. But I know one thing that I've observed, Tim, is some really unusual strategic byproducts, meaning we went in to solve this problem called too much chatter, right? Going over budget, whatever. The things that we do when we put in a roll up, we put in that weekly production meeting. But sometimes there's a byproduct that is really strange. Like, wow, our total revenue went up, right? Like we're actually able to hold on to a lot more of our profits than we did before. I'm sleeping better at night, right? Like the owner is more focused. And so the creative work, if it's the owner is a creative director or something, like the work gets better. And I guess I would put that all into the category of think about the things that prevent you from focusing on your genius on a regular basis, right? You talked about interruptions and disruption. And I think a lot of us are like this frog being boiled, if you know that analogy. Like it happens so gradually between Slack and messages and my phone that we don't even realize that if we could just get that time and brain space back, then we're going to see an incredible return on that investment.
Yeah, I'm thinking of something right now too, is that, we often give the production team all of the responsibility and some of the authority. And that's how we built them up. And so an easy example of that is that we don't tell them what the whole budget is. We're afraid if they knew the whole budget, they'd spend all of it or something like that. So we say, we're going to hide the budget the client's giving us, and we're going to give you a small allocation. Well, now I'm putting that production team under stress. They can't make that decision with you. You just ask them to simply perform, don't think. Instead of recognizing, hey, maybe I can bring them alongside. Now I can give them all of the responsibility and all of the authority, and I can maximize their experience and knowledge. So your behaviors and the way you do certain things in your company also give permission to others to step up into that opportunity. So that's some of our responsibility as business owners, is to recognize what are the capabilities our team has and how do we set them up for success, not prevent them from failure, and then help them work through it. So that's why I like, to me, a roll-up is a very easy tool that you can put it all in front of your team. They can see the full client's budget. They see what's directly allocated to them, and then they could spend 100% of that money. We don't have to say, only spend as much as you need or try to save. Like, no, here it is. Here's the allocation. Don't spend all of it. Go. Like, hey, have fun. Spend every dollar if we need to. Hey, what does the creative team mean? Oh, that's a great idea. Let's invest in that. And we can get that in front of your producers and give them that permission to execute that way.
Yeah, it's a beautiful feedback loop when people know what the scorecard is and they know when they're winning, and then they start collaborating around winning. Well, look, we're over by 1 minute. Tim, this is really fun. I love like extracting this stuff out of you. We're going to sign off and say, if you have questions, comments, whatever, we will post the
Yeah,
replay
sure.
that's in Rev community. So that should be up by tomorrow. So feel free to go back and share this, chime in, comments, questions, whatever. You can create a thread there in the community. Thanks for all the comments, and thanks for everyone for being here. I'm going to turn my camera on just for a brief second.
Yeah.
Hopefully my bandwidth will hold up.
Yeah, and I think the hard part, Joel, now is like, where should we do this boot camp?
I know, right?
Do we do it like in Puerto Rico or something? Cancun? We're gonna have some fun if we're gonna.
All right, my wheels are turning.
Thank you.
All right, well, thanks everyone. Thanks for being part of the weekly briefing. We're here to make sure that you're thriving in business life and career. Tim, thanks. I'll see you next week for another briefing next week. And everyone have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, have a great week. Bye.